Hey everyone, Inkwelder here for the finals of the 90s MTG Webcam League. Really nice that I get to actually defend my championship. I won the last league playing variants of Painter. This time I was just on Chaos Painter, because this has got to be my favorite deck I've ever played. It used to be Grixis Painter and Birthing Pod in Modern, and this deck is just so much fun. I love playing it every time. Anyway. Fun that I get to defend the title. And so I open with a Welder, and opponent opens with Tarn. I put him on Delver. He had made a post on Reddit about Delver that I happened to see because I read the Legacy subreddit. And so I make a terrible mistake because I've got Goblin Engineer in hand, and I didn't run it out. I could have played around Days and played the Engineer and gotten Dragon Engine, but I wasn't sure if I would need Defiler. And so instead of like going and getting Dragon Engine, which would still be fine, and I've got a great Furnace in hand too, I end up doing nothing, and he plays him to Torok. He shocks himself, so I know a Shadow is coming because he's now at 14 life. And he's going to get my Engineer and my Furnace, unfortunately. So, worst possible situation. And I went from having probably the dream start for Painter. The Painter Grindstone with 2 Soul Lands is probably the nuts, but with a Red Blast and a Lotus Petal. But certainly Welder Engineer with Great Furnace and land is like an absolutely amazing opening. So now he really just needs to find threats, and with all the shocking that he's doing to himself, the damage he's doing to himself, I am in a lot of trouble. So there's the Shadow, and I don't have much relevance in my hand. I've got a Spirit Guide, which I'm about to play, and he's got a Delta also in there, I think. There's his Delta. But he can protect the Shadow. I was looking for Fury, which I think I find on the next turn or something, but I snap blocked the Shadow, and I don't think I should have, but also probably a mistake. I am playing on tilt at this point because I was so mad about him getting the Engineer. Not a good way to start your finals match, let me tell you. I was not feeling great. So, I think I've got the Fury here, but he's got a polluted Delta, so he can fetch and then shock himself and make Shadow a 6/6, and so Fury won't do anything. He does try to Force of Will the Fury, and I activate Welder and swap my Great Furnaces and Red Blast the Force of Will. Didn't really help because, again, he can still protect the Shadow, but he is at 8, and I've got a 3/3 double strike. So there is that. If his threats dry up and he doesn't play more threats, like I'm in a good position. I just need an Engineer to get Defiler, and I'm back in this. It's the big difference, right, between paper and online, is that Defiler just answers everything in the format pretty much. Except Merit Lage, right, that we care about, and Kaldra. It doesn't really take care of those. But Kaldra is not played very much at the moment, and, well, both of these aren't played very much at the moment. It'll probably start to resurge with White Plume Band. So he's digging with Ponder and such. The threats are unfortunately not going to dry up for my opponent as they did for my previous opponent, Gizlo, who couldn't really find threats in this game. Opponent is just going to go ham, finds a Murktide Regent, which I'm not usually scared of that because I've got Red Blasts and I've got Defiler. I've got a lot of live draws here to get me out of this. Engineer is the best one. Because it immediately puts Defiler in my graveyard and turns the game around. But now I'm on the back foot. It's possible that I should have attacked with Fury last turn. He could have blocked with the Murktide, and they would have traded. And so that means maybe he wouldn't have blocked it and would have dropped to 2. And then I would have had to chump with Goblin Welder. So, I don't know. might have helped. Opponent plays a Wasteland, but I've got so much mana, he doesn't really need to do anything because he played another Shadow. So I really fell behind that game and didn't get to pressure my opponent and never really positioned myself to control the game. So I am on the play here, which is relevant because now I'm assuming that my opponent's siding out Daze. And so I run out Lotus Petal and Goblin Welder. I don't have to worry about Daze, which is useful. Especially because against Painter, people tend to overboard. They bring in we play artifacts, graveyard, red cards, they're creatures, there's so much. We have activated abilities, there's so much to play around. We have Urza Saga, like every sideboard card can usually come in against Painter. So I play a Dragon Engine. I do make a small mistake by running out the petal afterward. Having Urza Saga also, this is great, but he wastelands it. This is just in general a good opening. The Dragon Engine is gonna attack until he plays something big, and then hopefully I can get the Dragon Engine in the graveyard and bring it back and draw more cards. I certainly wouldn't mind it. Opponent is sort of on the Wasteland strategy. He got rid of my Saga, and now he's getting rid of Great Furnace, but he's not playing a threat. And not lowering his life total either. I'm lowering his life total. So I was aware of that I was maybe turning on his Shadow. But I also decided that I just didn't care. I'm at 20, right? If he wants to play a Shadow, he's going to have to use it for blocking. So I've got my Saga at 2 now. I can make a construct with my Lotus Petal. I don't even need to. I've got a Mountain. So I'm in good shape. And I also have 2 Red Blasts in hand. So there's one. On his Brainstorm, I know he's digging. He Force of Wills my Red Blast, and I Red Blast that one too. At this point, opponent's at 5, and I'm going to deal 4 more damage to him next turn. And I've got a Saga that I'm going to make a construct with, and he just decides to scoop it up. So we go to game 3. I'm on the draw. I'll use this opportunity to just thank Chris Benucci for running the league. It is so much fun. I played against basically 11 different decks, I'm pretty sure, across the board. It's just really fun to get to play against so many different strategies just from the luxury of your own home. So thanks, Chris, for everything that you do. Here, I was on the draw, and I just decided I've got Engineer in hand, and I valued the Engineer above the Magus, and I basically wanted to force test him. So he didn't force, he fetched a basic island and Hydroblasted it, but that's still I am more than happy with that. I could have sandbagged it and played the Engineer, but I don't have as much confidence against Shadow, like a Shadow deck with Magus, as I do against like 4-color Control or Naya Depths or anything like that I could really lock out their mana. I could lock out their mana, but then they could like basically try to blue blast or do something to get rid of the Magus. So I run out the Engineer second, and it gets he brainstorms, but he finds Force of Will, and he told me after it's probably his mistake of the game is that he didn't force the Engineer. He let it resolve, and I put Dragon Engine in there. And I've got Great Furnace in hand. I was protecting Great Furnace from Wasteland. So I didn't want him to wasteland my artifact. So nice to have a basic mountain. He does play Wasteland, so he'll take out my tomb, but I've got the Great Furnace in hand to immediately draw cards. So just in very good board position here because opponent doesn't have a threat, and I've got the Dragon Engine, and this is what game 1 should have been like for me. I definitely made that mistake, but Dragon Engine comes in. I discard Defiler and Painter. I play Welder. I didn't have any land or anything to play around days. So I just run the Welder out there, and now I'm in a pretty decent position because if I untap, I've got Defiler online for any threat. And I've got 2 goblins, so I can really go crazy. So he is sort of priced into playing Hurkyl's Recall. And popping my engine back to my hand, I've only got 1 land. So at this point, and having 2 goblins with like so much danger in the graveyard with Chaos Defiler, he has to prevent me from activating my goblins when I have an artifact. So he's going to have to counter my artifacts, which is not a good place. So he has to counter Lightning Greaves with Force of Will. And again, no threat yet. Finds a Ponder, which is very good for him to look. Ooh, he may have flashed his hand there. I actually think he did. You gotta be careful with that. His quality wasn't great, and he apologized for it. His internet was not good that night, so he ponders and shuffled and plays a land and passes. So that's fantastic. I find Urza Saga, so I find my 3rd land so that I can run out the Dragon Engine again, and he lets it resolve. So I attack with the Engineer, and now I can sit back because I don't have to do anything. And this was a mistake I made in Eternal Weekend against Pieboy. It was a Painter Mirror, and I made the first move with my Goblin Welder, and we both had Welder and Engineer. The Painter Mirror is a headache. I don't wish it upon anybody, but I made the first move, and that cost me the game. So in this case, learning from my mistakes, I'm just going to make him... I've got pressure on the board now. I've got Urza Saga that I can start making tokens, although he plays a Wasteland and gets rid of it. I've got Dragon Engine. I can chip away at his life total. So, certainly good. Let me drink water. So, what's really good is that I find a Grindstone here. This is now, I can activate Welder or Engineer to get back Defiler while swapping the Grindstone. Also, if I draw land, I can activate Grindstone and grab that Painter in the graveyard. So he plays Engineered Explosives on 1. So now I'm basically saying I don't want to activate. Activating Welder for Grindstone is now bad. I have to wait for him to do something. Because Welder Grindstone will fizzle if he pops it, because both targets won't be legal. Engineer works, though, because Engineer sacks is part of the cost. But also Explosives, not a threat. So I can keep attacking with Dragon Engine, and I just have a commanding board presence. It's very clear that my opponent was very flooded. He had multiple Wastelands. He had the Hurkyl's Recall. He had Engineered Explosives. I don't know how good Explosives is against Painter. We have 0 drops from Fable and Saga, and we have 1 drops and 2 drops and 3 drops. It's a little too much. So I don't know that you need Explosives. But I find City of Traders and I activate Grindstone. I was going to use Welder, but then I actually stopped because of the Explosives and instead used Engineer to get rid of the Grindstone targeting Painter. Painter comes in, always name black against an Underground Sea, unless you have a Red Blast in hand. My opponent reveals Gaia's Blessing to shuffle the graveyard back in, but he's at 8, and I still have a combat step here. So, and I still have my Goblin Welder up. He didn't activate the Explosives yet. I think he could have. I asked him to go through his deck and tell me what he sideboarded in against me, because I get to see his deck. So he had Shadows and Murktide Regent as threats, and then had like Dress Down and Surgicals. I don't think you need Surgical if you've got Gaia's Blessing, right? I don't think you need Surgical. You can ignore it. Sure, I could go get Soul Guide Lantern, but it just makes my combo a lot clunkier. Anyway, just showing me all the lands. He cast Dress Down. This is going to turn off the Welder, and so now I'm priced into using it. And using Welder, thankfully the Grindstone's gone, right? So Painter and Castifiler, he has nothing to stop that unless he has a Stifle. Defiler can now force the issue on Engineered Explosives, but he needs a threat, and so he actually doesn't even activate Explosives. I think he was probably also tilted. He's got 6 lands in play. He just got totally flooded. And he Brainstorms after Dress Down resolves, and then scoops it up. So I defend my championship. I definitely recommend people like try this league if you haven't before. You need I have a $30 webcam. And it's pretty nice to be able to play anytime. Thank you, Chris, for running it. Thanks, Ryan, for good games. We both had sort of awkward. This wasn't nearly as interactive as my match against Gizlo, but yeah. I hope you all like the format of this. If you want Scryfall on the side, let me know. But I did like this format. Hopefully it worked for you. And thanks to Adam and Prez in the Painter Discord for showing me how to hide people that aren't sharing their screen. So hope you all enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll try to upload more Painter videos when I can. Take care, everyone. Bye.